Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun channel. First off, some of you guys might have seen a live stream happen this morning. This is Monday, June 5th, 2017. Well, that live stream wasn't supposed to happen. I actually accidentally hit the start streaming button rather than the start recording button on my OBS system here. And those buttons should be, I don't know, maybe a little bit clearer or something. You might have heard some stuff going on in the background, me feeding the baby or, yelling at the dog or something. But I wanted to make this video because Sean over at SGT Report just published a video a couple days ago. This interview was recorded 2 days before the London Bridge attack. And it's something I definitely recommend you check out. It's already got almost 100,000 views. So I'm sure you guys that are watching this probably saw that as well. But they brought up Crisis Solutions. And that's Oli Damgard of lightonconspiracies.com, and he's done a lot of work in the conspiracy world. I've heard of his work in the past, with Red Ice and things like that. So definitely a guy that's been on top of this kind of stuff. And he and Sean looked at this website, Crisis Solutions, and certainly there are a lot of suspicious things about this website. Our clients include governments and high-profile global corporations who expect us to provide crisis management approaches that match 21st century requirements. This includes harnessing cutting-edge technology. Now, this, I would imagine, includes Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as well. But before we get too far, it's really interesting because down here you have a scrolling of companies that are part of this whole thing, and you can watch it scroll by. But what I wanted to point out is, these quotes, what our clients say, and sometimes the way the clients are described. This here is Chief Executive UK Insurance Group. Then you have Head of Corporate Communications, European Private Bank. Interesting. Group General Counsel, US-based professional service company. So how vague is that? A Group General Counsel, okay, of US-based professional service companies. All right, that's very vague. Chief Executive, UK Public Sector Agency. Senior Executive, Global Pharmaceutical Company. Very interesting, right? If we think about the pharmaceutical industry and how it controls the masses to buy into more and more painkillers, more and more drugs over the counter. Senior Executive, Global Financial Services Firm. Again, this is why I think the idea of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is part of this. These people are probably already working on some kind of perhaps digital false flag event or financial false flag event. Maybe that's something that they've been working on for a long time. And we know that this company, actually, the very first time they did a stunt was this London two-stage chemical attack. This is CNN back in 2002, I believe, or 2003. London, England, British Emergency Services will simulate a chemical weapons attack Sunday on a subway train below London's financial district in an effort to test the city's ability to deal with a terrorist strike. If we go into a message from the managing director, it says here, Crisis Solutions began life over 15 years ago, providing crisis simulation exercises to several of the UK's major banks and insurance companies. So this thing was created to test financial terrorism, so to speak. The first ever market-wide exercise. Crisis Solutions delivered the very first market-wide exercise involving more than 100 organizations and thousands of participants in a day-long simulated terror attack on London's financial sector. We were also a key part of the UK government's preparations to provide resilience against cyber attacks during the London Olympics. This sort of thing is old news in principle, but I really haven't seen this company per se. And certainly this stuff is very disturbing. But you look at some of these people that are part of this organization, and you obviously have a team, and these folks are probably, not necessarily in the know about everything, but maybe they are, I don't know. The one name that really jumped out at me, and I didn't go through every single person here, but digging through, Jim Preen is a very interesting name. He is a former journalist who works for many years at U.S. television network ABC News. He covered the Concorde crash in Paris, the Bosnian War, and the First Gulf War. During this time at ABC, he won 2 Emmy Awards, and his role as head of media services at Crisis Solutions, Jim writes communication plans and delivers masterclasses on crisis communications. So what's kind of weird is that when you dig into this guy, there's not a whole lot of information about him. He does have an album, okay, which is really kind of weird. He has this CD that he published. I don't know. I didn't listen to any of the songs, but there's a list here of songs and tracks, and certainly The Stupid Club, Saddle Up, Lounge, Lizard, Devils, Y, Shopping for Clothes, The Ultimate Good Luck, Kiss Up, Mr. Siegel, and I don't know why I just picked that one randomly, and it seems to be a Tom Waits song. I don't know if these are all covers. Perhaps some of you guys recognize some of these other names of songs here, but in any case, Tom Waits had a song called Mr. Siegel, and the lyrics are not necessarily good here. Angels get sleep when the devil leaves the porch light on. Why are the wicked so strong? So I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. This company definitely is shady, but at the same time, we can't conclusively say that they're behind these events. We can share our opinion and say that we think so, and we heavily believe that they might have certainly a hand to play in all of these types of drills and everything going on in conjunction with real events that are supposedly killing people. So another part that's really interesting, our global client base. Our client base grew to include global brands in a variety of sectors, including oil and gas. Who's behind oil and gas? Electronics, supermarkets, retailing, government departments, aviation, and more. Our financial sector client base boomed, and we began working with industry regulators. Oh, they began working with industry regulators. Wow. I mean, they're just flat out telling us who their clientele is, what they do as a company. And this really brings plausible deniability. It's like, what happens if these folks create the crisis and people actually die? Okay. Now, people don't necessarily actually have to die. And maybe that's part of the media manipulation that this company is also a part of. If you watch another video of theirs and dig a little deeper, they have this cloud service where people can tap in and read communications to coordinate some sort of massive crisis, right? So if they plan something and they have this drill, quote unquote, they're calling it a drill, but nobody in the public knows it's a drill. The only people that know it's a drill are the actors that are part of it, right? So they conduct this thing and they freak people out, and people freak out. People do strange things. Obviously, if you destabilize a situation, any situation in public, it's going to cause chaos. People will react in the worst ways, some in the best ways, but it's going to create chaos. And what if people actually get hurt? Or what if people actually die? Well, they have this cover of being, it's a drill, number one. And number two, the real life event, therefore, can never be blamed on these organizations, because these organizations are there to prevent this type of thing from happening. But look, see, they really do happen. And of course, who gets blamed? Radical Islamists, terrorists, ISIS, all part of the same creation, So we were really seeing the right hand and the left hand here with the company like Crisis Solutions. Now, the implications are so huge, because if you think about it, what we have here is the control of Western media, okay? If these events that take place are nothing more than a fabrication, and Western civilization at large follows the narrative, then they are completely being led on a string to do certain things, to believe certain things, to rise up for certain things. It's all very calculated. It's all very controlled. And this is an operation, I believe, of the CIA, Mossad. Those are the governmental structures and organizations that have implemented these things because they can. They're the ones that had the power. They're the ones that had the jurisdiction or the legalistic power to do this kind of stuff. If true, okay, again, we're not saying we know for sure, but if this is all part of it, then certainly this is from the pits of hell. And it is the Hegelian dialectic. Create the problem, offer the solution. Crisis management, crisis solutions. I'm sorry, I have to laugh because it's just so obvious. Let's watch this video. They have a video here. This is a different video from the one that played during the interview, but I think you'll get the gist of it. Here it is.
Crisis Solutions are the crisis simulation experts, and one of the reasons we lead the pack is Crisis Cloud, our secure web portal that simulates real-world communications.
Okay, hold on. It's hard to tell what is real and what is, mockery, what is satire. I mean, look at this. Welcome to Crisis Cloud. This really does seem kind of like a joke, doesn't it? All right, I'm sorry. Let me just keep going.
Portal that simulates real-world communications during an exercise. It features simulated news videos, print news stories, and social media. There's also crisis mail, with emails coming from a myriad of sources to ramp up pressure on the players. A chat function allows teams and individuals to message each other as the scenario unfolds. To log on, all you need is a broadband connection. Participants have password-protected access, so your exercise won't leak into the real world. News stories and tweets pour in as the exercise progresses. Crisis Solutions journalists will phone participants, updating their story.
Okay, how much of this is simulation and how much of this is supposed to be real life? Because there's a blurring here happening where reality is being bent to a scripted narrative. And you can see and you can feel it as this guy's describing what they do. And certainly, a crisis can be created within the cloud of people or the people connected into the cloud. That crisis is happening in real time, in real life. So, where is the line between drill, simulation, and reality? But let's continue.
On the fly. Players themselves can put out internal messages to staff and external messages to all other stakeholders. Crisis Cloud, the secure media web portal that'll bring your exercise to life.
Bring your exercise to life. Yep. So if these nefarious folks, bankers, elites, whatever, the deep state folks, and even above, wanted to create chaos, wanted to destabilize an area, wanted to continue to push the narrative of terrorism as a real threat. And it is a real threat. Okay, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying it's a fabrication. It's still a real threat, but the threat isn't some kind of natural evolution of a religious movement. Certainly there is a violent history with Islam, but there's a violent history with every religion. Not every religion is used by the elite to create destabilization and to create chaos in the world for the sake of the elite agenda. It's much easier to control a religion that has violence within its scriptures, the Quran, which, let's be honest, it does have justification for violence against those who don't believe, which the Bible does not. And you can argue, the Old Testament has all kinds of violence against others. Well, the circumstantial justification was not a commandment, so to speak, that was to be followed throughout history. It was a situational thing within the time of the Old Testament, plus a lot of the violence in warfare that was fought in the Old Testament by the Israelites were against the tribes of giants. And that's a big part that people don't get, is that the Nephilim is a huge part of the narrative that is completely omitted by most of the church. And it makes sense as to why God called for quote unquote genocide, okay, of neighboring tribes like Canaan. So let's get that straight first within the church before we put on top of it the arguments about, well, it was just linguistic in a sports game. If you say, the Golden State Warriors killed the Cleveland Cavaliers last night. Well, they didn't physically kill them, but it's a figure of speech. People have argued that kind of thing for the Old Testament, that, they said, we're going to wipe them out, but they didn't really wipe everybody out. And that's actually true because later we see Canaanites, arrive in other areas. But in any case, I'm going way off track here. The point being, religion can be used for violence, systematically controlled by the elite. The radical side of Islam, so to speak, is being controlled, funded, and used by another group of people to carry out a greater agenda, the ancient plan, so to speak, okay? And this is just absolutely amazing that most of the Western world is blind to it. Now, why create enemies out of Russia and things like that in the mainstream media? Well, that's because Putin is one of those guys that saw the globalist thing takeover happening on one side and decided not to participate in that agenda. Okay, it doesn't mean Putin is all good in all this. He just decided not to be a part of that thing, that Zionist, Jesuit-controlled thing that's trying to take over. Now, there is actually, let me rephrase that. The Jesuit thing might be a part of what Putin is involved in. The Orthodox Church there in Russia has some very shady things going on. I don't know if Putin's a part of that. The point being, Crisis Solutions, bringing it back here. This thing is just absolutely in your face. I recommend you guys just take a look at this, click around, see if you can find anything. There's one more thing I wanted to share. You look down here, the website designed and maintained by Liquid Computing. And here's the Liquid Computing website. We are a new breed of IT solutions and web design company. Okay, just a typical web design company. Nothing to see here. They're very much into cybercrime. And if you pull up the address here, it's this location. It's a random barn, literally. This is the company that designed the website for Crisis Solutions. And it's just literally, it's like a barn in the middle of nowhere. liquid computing. You know, it's probably some guy's basement or whatever. And the other thing I wanted to look at is marketed by Scaramanga, I think is the way you pronounce that. So let's check out Scaramanga. And your needs, your services. Which one will you click? Scaramanga, we don't provide a one-size-fits-all marketing service. So it's a marketing company. And here are the list of clients of Scaramanga. You have Crisis Solutions here. Again, all these big companies, Risk Management, High Court Enforcement Group. And look at here, we have DEFRA, D-E-F-R-A. And it says here, DEFRA is the department responsible for the government's Sustainable Development Strategy. Aha! Haven't we been talking about Sustainable Development UN 2030 agenda forever? Yeah, these companies are all tied together, folks. It's all the same giant beast. It's just different tentacles that we're finding out about. And this is certainly another example. What is Human Smoothie? I'm just curious. Okay, it's some personality-driven company, although it's very strange to use humans as fruit and call them smoothies because, you know, it's all about blending up those pieces of fruit. That is kind of weird. All right. So anyway, there's the connection there with a company like Crisis Solutions and the UN Sustainable Development Agenda. You know, it's not direct, but there are certainly people in the same circles running around, you know, promoting each other, helping each other out business-wise. And, you know, again, it doesn't have to be a consciously nefarious thing in terms of, hey, let's create this new world order system for the ultra elite, but it is something that is naturally there. It is a carrot that is dangled and a lot of people go for it. And so, you know, in the business world, in the world of networking and communications and building and all this stuff, it's very easy to fall into the same type of thinking in progress, in entrepreneurship, in the future and all this stuff, and buy right into things like the Sustainable Development UN 2030 Agenda, which is basically a human enslavement program. So again, check out the interview that Sean did with Ole Demigard, and definitely share things in the comment section if I missed stuff, if there are other points to be made. Certainly Ole in that interview goes over a lot of things that are obvious and are important to understand with this whole deception that is taking place. I just wanted to say a specific thank you to all the patrons out there. I appreciate all you guys. It really means a lot to me and my family. So thank you. And just as a small announcement, the next part of Age of Deceit is coming together quite nicely. So stay tuned for that. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.